Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, your significant other, children, family, friends, community, and higher power, this show is for you. We explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. The show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Coach K. Let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started. We share with you today the secret power to intimacy to create a life you love or love the life you create. Now, here's your host, Dr. April, and co-host, Coach K.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. How are you doing, Coach K?
I am a little bit under the weather, but I am perfectly okay outside of that. How about yourself?
I am doing really good. Yes, it's finally starting to warm up here in Florida. And so, yes, I'm just so excited that the spring is coming.
Yeah, we're getting unseasonably weather today, 82, but by the weekend, it'll be like 30. So the normal, let's get everybody sick weather for this time of year for us in Virginia.
Yes, definitely. And so, of course, I'm always excited because we're in the month of February. And February, we just talk about relationships.
Yes.
Yes.
Love all around.
Yes, yes. And so on today's topic today, we're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about type of relationships that I have seen so much in therapy sessions, just this terminology of narcissism.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we're going to have somebody here that can speak to the topic so that it's recognized and not continue to be overlooked.
Right, because many times people are not aware of these tendencies and they fall trap into something. Yes, definitely. So, but before we get into that, what we're going to talk about is something that's not narcissistic at all. It's random acts of kindness, our charity of the month, which is so wonderful. So random acts of kindness is a charity where you do something nice for someone. Just, you don't need any, what am I saying? Anybody telling you, hey, you're going to get this back. You just go and you do something nice, whether you pay the meal from Starbucks or McDonald's or help someone out, in the store. It's random acts of kindness, www.randomacts.org.
Such a necessary. I love that charity too.
Yes, definitely. Yes. And so based from the charity, our special guest today is a woman warrior, which I love the topic of a woman warrior. That means that's something, so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And what better to describe a woman than a warrior?
Exactly. Because there are many times we have so many different hats. And so her name is Christina, and Christina has a wonderful platform on TikTok that she's going to talk about that I've watched and have been inspired. And she's her platform has actually helped some of my clients. So, and she has survived relationship that it's been narcissistic, abusive. So she's not only talking from knowledge, but also talking from experience. So I can't wait to have her on the show. We're going to take a commercial break and we'll be back in a moment. Okay?
Improving intimacy, everyday expressions is all about you and your partner. Opportunities for intimacy are scattered endlessly within every second of life you create together with your partner. Everyday expressions will educate you and open your eyes to just how great your relationship could be with a little TLC. Improving intimacy, everyday expressions provides a true baseline for the strength in your relationship you've been looking for. Available in Kindle, Audible, and paperback.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy show, where intimacy is real. Welcome, Christina.
Dr. April, Coach K, thank you so much for having me. I'm very thrilled to be here and get this information out there. Thank you.
Yes. We're so inspired by your story. So, yes. And I didn't also say one of the other greatest things about her. She is a beautiful mom of three. Three young boys. Yes.
Yes, it's a busy house for sure.
Yeah. So one of the things we ask everyone on the show is, what does intimacy mean to you?
Intimacy, for me, in order to be intimate with myself or with anybody else, I believe that it requires some vulnerability to allow yourself to be seen and to create a connection with someone else. But you can only create a connection with someone else if you have a connection within yourself. And so that touches apart on narcissism because they're incapable of being vulnerable. They're incapable of intimacy because they're incapable of self-reflection. They have no connection to their true authentic self. And so they hide it with a mask. So I believe that intimacy is being in your authentic state and growing a connection with somebody else or with yourself.
Yes, definitely. And I like how you put that. And yeah, one thing that I see in people who are narcissistic or even just doing the studies is that they have a hard time empathizing. They cannot put themselves in someone else's shoes.
Exactly. I mean, that is definitely part of the disorder. There are people who are actually diagnosed with NDP. They have people who have NDP, which is narcissistic personality disorder tendencies. But that is one of the main characteristics, among several other that I will cover, but that they have no lack of empathy. They cannot, like you said, put themselves in other people's shoes. They put themselves first because they're incapable of thinking about somebody else.
Right, right. And so how does that impact the whole thing about intimacy?
Well, intimacy, I mean, like I said, you need to be vulnerable. Right. And what vulnerability is when you have self-love and boundaries and you're vulnerable. I mean, vulnerability is very courageous. I mean, like Brene Brown says, vulnerability is the birthplace of love and joy. And so when you have vulnerability attached with self-love and boundaries, it's like you're saying to other people and to yourself, I deserve to be seen. And if you don't like it, then you can leave and I'll be okay. Right. So when you stick up for yourself against a narcissist, you need to be able to learn how to say that, how to do that, how to establish boundaries. But yeah, absolutely. Intimacy is vulnerability is a huge part of being intimate with anyone.
Right, right. And it's so needed, like you said, to be intimate with a person, also with yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. And so my TikTok platform, what I wanted to do, I actually created it in the middle of the time in my life where I was trying to heal. I wasn't healed yet. I was in the midst of it. I was in the process of it. And the reason why I started my TikTok was first off to see if I could put my authentic self out there, if I had the courage to do so. Because for so long in my toxic abusive marriage, for 10 years, I hid myself out of fear. And I'll explain where that comes from. But when I left, I said, you know what? I'm not hiding myself anymore. I want to put myself out there and see if I can do it, if I'm brave enough. And so I started my TikTok. I started off slow. At points, I just, made little videos of me and my cat. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to talk to the camera. I'm gonna do something that can help others, because right now I feel alone and I feel isolated and I don't want anybody else feeling like that. And it was almost like the platform helped me in the process of healing more, because it allowed me to gain strength. It allowed me to put out the information that I had worked so hard during the 2 years of the first 2 years of my separation, because I really tried to understand what happened.
Right.
What happened to me? Why did this happen? Where do I go from here? Who am I? Will I ever find true love? Was the problem me? I had so many of these unanswered questions. And so I did an immense amount of research in order to find out that, in fact, I was a victim of narcissistic abuse. And knowledge, information, is power.
Right.
And so I wanted to give that power to other women so that they wouldn't feel so lost like I did. And since I started about a year ago, I now have about 232,000 followers, of mostly 95% of them being women. Some men also being victims, of course, of narcissistic abuse, which is fully possible. Narcissism is not gender specific.
Right.
But because my title is Women Warriors, I guess it gravitates more to women followers. So I'm happy that, and I'm just getting started, you know,
Yes.
first year,
Yes.
and I am not stopping now, by all means. So, yeah. So I wanted to start off, like I said, knowledge is power. What is a narcissist?
Yeah, I wanted you to start off with that because you said you had to hide yourself.
Exactly.
So,
Like, what is
yes.
narcissist? What is narcissism? What is narcissistic abuse? What does it look like? Right. And so, first of all, like I explained, a narcissist puts on a mask. And why do they put on a mask? Because narcissism is the #1 disorder that's full of shame. Something must have happened in this person's life, some kind of childhood trauma where they believe that they cannot be themselves. And so there's full of shame as to who they are. So what they did is that they put on a mask, and they put this mask on to seek approval to other people. And it's the external approval of other people that they constantly need because they cannot give it to themselves. They cannot be self-reflective. They are scared. They're afraid to do so. They'll never be able to look in the mirror and state the truth as to who they are because they're full of the shame. So the mask that they put on, well, that mask can come off as very charming. That mask can come off as
charismatic.
Very charismatic in the beginning.
Yes.
We want people to like them. Right? And so when you start off, and they could be people that they work with, people that they need to make an impression of for whatever reason. But when it comes to a partnership, when it comes to a relationship, well, there's certain phases that happen in order for this. It's called the narcissistic cycle of abuse that happens. Now, narcissists only abuse the #1 person who's the closest to them. Sometimes it's not even their parents. It's usually the partner that they're with, which means that this one sole person is the only real recipient of this abuse. So everybody else in the world that this narcissist interacts with believes that this person is incredible, that they're so kind, that they're so caring. And yet that one person who's in the relationship with them is the only one that suffers from the abuse. So when they finally come out, a lot of times, a lot of people don't even believe them because the narcissist is so charming, right? So,
and I just would also say is that abuse of layers of abuse. Sometimes it's even stuff that they felt upset about in childhood or whatever, but it's this whole range of abuse that they're going to put on one person.
Exactly. It's full of gaslighting. It's full of projection. It's full of neglect and isolation. They devalue you on a daily basis by using criticisms, dismissals, judgments. They flat out sometimes can insult you. So in the beginning, very charming. Usually their conversations are about them. They might give you a couple of seconds for you to talk about yourself, but usually the conversation will revert back to them.
Right. And just on that part right there. So if you go on a date with someone and they just talk completely about themselves and not ask you a question. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. They are extremely sensitive to any kind of criticism, whether it be positive criticism or not. They have very few friends, usually, very few true friends, right? If any. Many people like them in the sense that they think that they're great and kind and nice, but how many actual friends that they have is quite few. For example, my ex-husband, who lived in the city that I lived, he wasn't born here, but he'd been here for 20 years. He maybe had one friend that he established in 20 years of being in this city.
Right.
So that also is a red flag. There's tons of
I was just about to say, if you're in a relationship with someone and maybe 2 years and you've never met any of their friends.
Exactly.
Yes.
They feed off of compliments off of other people. Yes. So there are two kinds of narcissists. There's the overt, the ones that we often hear that they're loud. They're like, I'm awesome. They tell everybody they're awesome. And then there's the covert, which is under the radar. And how they get compliments is they pretend to be They don't pretend, but they believe to be a victim. So they'll say things like, oh no, I'm not great. And then you're like, oh no, you're so amazing. Okay, thank you. Right? So they'll get the compliment another way, but it's always like a woe, woe is me. It's always that victim story, which is what I had to endure with my ex and what I lived with. And because I have a big heart, and I didn't know this at the time, but I was a people pleaser from something that happened in my own life. Well, as soon as someone came off as a victim of something horrible that happened to them, or that they're feeling bad, well, I'm going to kind of jump in and say like, no, you're great, you're amazing, you can do it, blah, blah, blah. And I'll give them all the support and encouragement and love that they need. And that's what they take advantage of, those kind of covert narcissists, right? They believe that they're better than other people. Flat out. They expect preferential treatment, and they flat out believe that their talents are probably better than they actually are. They also have a large, like a grandiose self-image of themselves. Even the relationship that I was in with a narc, who was a covert narcissist who played his victim role, still believed that he was entitled in this world to grand things, that he would create, that he was the best in this, and that he would want to live in an island. He's going to make so much money because he's so amazing. And it's that self-image that's completely inauthentic that they go with, that they roll with. So a narcissist is definitely someone who thinks about themselves, talks about themselves, and does not regard your feelings, your concerns, your interests even, with any kind of consideration at all. At all. They also, what they will do, so before I do that, I'd like to talk about the actual narcissistic abuse cycle quick, and then at the end of my presentation, I'd really like to talk about, well, how do you thrive after this? How do you regain, yourself after going through all of this? But what is this that you went through? So it starts off, there are about 5 phases to a narcissistic abuse cycle. Not all of them happen, but most of them do. First one is that it's called love bombing. So love bombing, what that is you first meet this person. They haven't really asked you any questions about yourself. They don't actually know you really.
Right.
However, they declare you as their soulmate. You are the person that they have always been looking for. You checked all the boxes. You are amazing. They put you up on this pedestal. But it's not based on any fact, because they haven't actually invested themselves into you or getting to know you. So that they declare you as something that's not based on anything. You could be a great person, absolutely, but how would they know if they've never asked you any questions, if they took no interest in you, right?
Right. But it's so easy to fall into that.
Exactly, especially if you've never experienced it before. I mean, maybe with healthy people, and you're like, wow, they're charming, they're nice, they're kind, and they're like thinking, I'm amazing too. This is awesome. You fall in love, and their goal is to have you fall in love very quickly.
Right, exactly.
And then once you're in love, it's like you feel a little trapped because you love them, right? And if they play that victim role, then you just want to keep on helping.
Yes. What's the number 2?
Number 2 is what happens most of the time, but not all the time. It's called narcissistic dumping. So what they do is that they dump onto you a large secret, that happened in their life, some kind of trauma, something to explain, by the way, all of their future horrible behavior that they will have. Oh, it's because of this. It's because I experienced this in my life that I'm this way. And so they tell you that this secret cannot be told to anybody, because if you tell anybody, well, it would ruin their life. Nobody can know.
Okay.
And that it has caused them so much pain and anguish in their life to hold this secret. And once they dump it onto you, they feel fine afterwards. Everything's fine with them. But now you feel like you're obliged to keep it a secret. You can't tell anyone. Right? It keeps you trapped, and it keeps you isolated.
Okay. What's the third?
The third one is called devaluing. Now, once you put you up on a pedestal,
and they
now you got to peg you down a little bit.
They got to peg you down. Okay. Yes.
And so most of the time what they do is that they take things that bring you the most peace and happiness, and the things that they destroy. So for me, for example, I love music. I love dancing. It's one of the things that brings me ultimate joy, biggest smile when I'm doing it. and he would insult it. He would say that my music was very primitive, that, well, if you like that kind of stuff. He would tell me that since I'm a better dancer than him, could you just like not do that in front of me? It makes me feel bad that I'm not, as good as you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so you'll devalue whatever it is. You could be an artist. You could be whatever it is that brings you peace and happiness. That's the thing that they'll destroy first, and they will constantly devalue you. It also comes with other little things like, wow, you're sitting on the couch still? Those dishes aren't going to clean themselves.
Yes.
Why don't you get another job that pays you more money? Why are you so lazy?
Mm-hmm.
These constant criticisms and judgments that devalue you. And you're like, well, shit, this person thought I was so great. And I believed their opinion of me then. I guess I should continue believing their opinion of me now.
Right.
Because they presented themselves as someone who was credible. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Together. The next one after that is called the discard phase. That happens when they have no more use for you. It either happens when they leave you or you leave them. And sometimes even when you leave them, like in my case, when I left my narc, he didn't discard me yet because I was still useful to him. I could still help him. I could still encourage him in his own efforts in his own life.
Right.
But the moment that you have no more value to them, they can't use you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They discard you. And what discarding looks like is, why are you talking to me? I don't do anything. Who are you? Get out of my life. They literally make you feel like everything that you gave in that relationship meant absolutely nothing. Right? The last one, which doesn't always happen, which hasn't happened in mine, for example, is called hovering. So when they hover around you. So sometimes when you leave, all of a sudden, then they will start hovering you. They will check out your social media. They'll keep on calling. They'll want back into your life. They'll want you to continue to be a supply for them. And what I mean by supply is that you are supplying their identity. They chose you for a reason because you're awesome.
Right.
And they're not. They wanted to be awesome. But they attached themselves to an incredible person who's bright and light and full of life because they want that for themselves. And then they sucked it out of you pretty much and used you as a supply. And when you're done and you have no more light, they're done with you. Right. And so it's important to also know that in a relationship, these phases in the cycle of abuse can happen over and over and over again. It doesn't happen just once in like a linear timeline, right? They can make a huge mistake. They can cheat on you, for example, and you're like, that's it, I'm done. And all of a sudden they start love bombing you again. And you're like, okay,
you back in, close you back in. Yes.
Put right back in. And then once you're up high, then they'll continue with the devaluing.
Right. However, there is hope of getting out.
Absolutely.
There's many women who have, like you said, like you yourself, and I even just think of one of my former relationships. Yes, how that was. Yes.
Exactly. And so everybody's reason to get out is different. Some people, it's because they have children and they don't want their children to suffer from this kind of abuse, to be witness to it, or to be the recipients of it.
Right. So, or let me just even say that when you're in that kind of relationship, your children are watching.
Exactly.
Yes. And if you want them to either be the narcissistic or the victim of it, continue it. But they will choose one of those. Exactly.
Right. And so they are constantly watching, and you as a parent are the model for them.
Right.
And so if you want to show them what empathy looks like, what a healthy relationship looks like, you have no choice but to leave. Right. You need to, and because in a relationship like that, there are no boundaries being set. People are being treated horribly and no one is sticking up for themselves. Right. And so you're teaching your children to do that as well if they're witness to it. Some people leave because they get information. They get information and realize, look at that. I'm in a narcissistic relationship and I didn't even know. And now I understand why I'm feeling like this. Now I understand why I have no identity.
Right. And I do want to say a disclaimer. If you're thinking of leaving and if you're in a narcissistic relationship, some of them can be very abusive.
Absolutely.
You need to have a plan. You can't just walk up and just wake up one morning and say, I'm leaving, because some people, they will go after you and it could be deadly.
Exactly. I did a video on that on TikTok that you absolutely must have a plan. You must prepare.
Right. And get resources.
Exactly. You must find a place to reside already before you leave. You must get some money. You must do all of these things to ensure that you are not stuck. Right. Because, the reason I got out, I had my sister tell me, it'll be hard, but you're not stuck.
Right.
Like, what can be harder than going through this and crying every day? Right. And so the pain, it's more painful to stay in that toxic traumatic relationship than the short amount of pain that will happen once you leave in your healing process. I promise you. Okay.
I think when you say that, I think about a break versus a sprain. And so many people say, I'm not broken, but sometimes a clean break is way shorter pain than if you sprain something like a muscle spasm. So if you think of the analogy just like that, what you explained is a perfect similarity.
Exactly. Right. And so when you're in a relationship like that, it's called a trauma bond. And what that is, a trauma bond, is that it actually physically affects your body and your brain. There are massive levels of dopamine and cortisol that are being pumped into your body. The dopamine comes when they give you little pieces of love, little pieces of crumbs that you get, right? And you're like, okay, everything's still good. And then the cortisol gets injected when they're treating you horribly and they're insulting you. And so it's called intermittent reinforcement. So they treat you badly, but sometimes you never know when, but they might just be nice to you. And so you do everything possible. You sacrifice yourself. You sacrifice your own needs. You don't bring up concerns because you don't want them to get upset or to start insulting you or judging you or criticizing you. You don't do all of that. So your identity gets lost. You do that in order to get those positive reinforcements that are intermittent, meaning they don't happen all the time, right? And it's an addiction. It's an actual addiction. So when you leave, it's like you are trying to get rid of an addiction. And it's hard. It's doable, but you need to understand what's going on in your body. You have been living in a state of a survival mode for so long. Your brain and your body has been hyperactive out of fear. It's exhausting when you leave. So the first thing that I can tell the viewers right now is that when you leave, you're going to need time to rest if you can. Sometimes it comes out as anxiety or depression when you first leave because you don't understand what's going on in your body. You ask yourself these questions, you don't know the answers yet, and your body is exhausted, right? So it's okay to take the time that you need to take. A lot of people feel the pressure, like I got to be okay right away. And if I don't, something's wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. Your body is healing, right? From that addiction. The next thing that you need to do is you need to seek out help, meaning you need to get information. You need to go see a therapist, see a community of people who can understand you, seek out your family members, talk to somebody about it. You've been isolated in this situation for so long. You've kept this person's secret for so long. You need to grieve the end of this relationship, and you need to do it by standing up for yourself and letting it be known. Listen, this is what I'm going through, and I don't want to be alone anymore. Right? The next thing that you definitely need to do is you need to feel the feelings. You're going to feel a lot of feelings. There's going to be anger. There's going to be rage sometimes. There's going to be sadness. There's going to be anguish. There's going to be all of these feelings. But what some people do is that they mask those feelings with other things: alcohol, drugs, sex, work. They mask it. And all that does, it's just stalls.
Right. It prolongs the healing. You got to feel it.
You got to feel it. And when you feel that anger, obviously you don't project it to the narcissist, right? You have no contact with this narcissist, hopefully. So what you do is that you use that anger for yourself to benefit yourself, to say, okay, what do I need to do and what do I need to change within myself to make sure this never happens again? Take that passion that you're feeling, even if it's, in the midst of rage, and say, this ain't going to happen to me again. What you got to do. So feel it, write it down in a journal and be like, I am so mad right now, right? But don't deny it, okay? Because it's happening to you and it's okay. It's totally understandable. Now, the first relationship you need to have after a narcissistic relationship is a relationship with yourself. You have a relationship with yourself for a very long time, right? Your whole self has been always outwards to someone else. Now you need to give inwards.
Right.
We all have a cup. Our cup needs to be filled. Self-acceptance, self-love, self-respect, self-worth. And the key word is self, because we need to do that for ourselves. And whatever spills over on the top of that cup, that's what we distribute to other people. Okay. So we need to get to a place where our cup is full, and then we can give to other people. So if you start a relationship with somebody else and you haven't healed yet, you haven't filled up your own cup, well, there's a good chance that you're going to go into a relationship, not necessarily with a narcissist per se, but something that doesn't look much better than it.
Right. Because you're entering a relationship with a heart that has holes in it, it's all beat up.
Exactly. You're willing to accept crumbs, even though the crumbs might look a little bit better than the narcissist. Right. But the bare minimum, I mean, we deserve what we give, right?
Exactly.
We cannot give to other people what we do not have and give to ourselves. So you need to give to yourself first. So that's why the first relationship, I always say, is take the time to have a relationship with yourself.
Right.
I did not see anybody, talk to anybody, date for 2 years. I just learned about me, getting to know me, getting my light back, doing things that I love to do, searching new outlets and new interests, things that I never even gave to myself before in my marriage, right? And so I just learned more about me. Another thing that I would suggest is to get some kind of spirituality going on. I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking per se, if religion it means to you, absolutely. If it means going out in nature, do that. If it means, meditating, then do that. But something that gives you or brings you to a higher
meaning and a purpose. Yes.
Exactly. Right. You're just gaining all of this information about yourself, more self-reflection. And like I said, take it day by day. A lot of people feel a lot of pressure. And when I was in my healing phases, I didn't think about necessarily what I was going to do the next week, or sometimes what I was going to do the next day. I focused on the day itself and said, this is what I'm going to do today to feed me, to fill up my cup. And the more and more I did that, the more I looked in the mirror and said, I am worthy, I am lovable, this is me, and I'm fucking fantastic.
Wow, awesome.
Every day, my cup would get full, right?
Yes. How long have you been out of that narcissistic?
It's been 2.5 years for me.
Okay, great.
Full solid 2 years, I only focused on me. I did a lot of research and I did a lot of self-love.
Right. But
I'll tell you what, I'll be honest, for the first 6 to 9 months, even a year, it was hard. I was depressed. I was alone. Sometimes I didn't want to get out of bed. I had no motivation to eat. I was on 100% when my children were with me. I was super much, but as soon as they left and I was alone, I didn't do much for me. I was taking that time to rest. Now, thankfully, I had someone in my life who was close. I have a twin sister who every single day she called me and make sure she made me laugh and talk to me, So thankfully, I had that. But what some people do is sometimes people don't have family or a close friend that they can do that. And that's why there are communities out there of survivors. Now that narcissism and the topic of it is becoming more well known, you can find these communities out there, which I will definitely on my TikTok page.
Yes, and even the sense of TikTok sign. I was just thinking it's been 20 plus years for me out of that narcissistic relationship. And many people get stuck because of kids. And I'm thinking, it's 20, my kid is grown now. But it was such a blessing for me to get out, and that person's still the same way he is, but it protected my child that she didn't end up in that type of relationship, So if you're thinking you need to stay just because of the kids,
it's the opposite.
It's really the opposite. Yes.
You have to save them. A lot of people ask me, what do I do in shared custody? What do I do that my child has to go and see this person still?
Right.
And this is what you do. When they come back to you, you show them. You show them what love is. You show them what true empathy is. They will see the difference.
And they will, as they get older. Mine's is in her 20s or whatever, going to 30s. She knows it.
Exactly. But if you stay in that relationship,
right,
you'll never see the difference.
right,
You don't know. All they see is mommy or daddy, whoever the victim is in this that situation, keep on being the brunt of that abuse without standing up for themselves. They don't see a healthy relationship. But when you leave, they can be a witness to the healthy relationship you have within yourself, and you are their model.
Yeah, definitely. You've been so awesome in giving us this information. Yes. So if people are out there and they're like, I know we talked about TikTok. Where can they find you on TikTok? Where can they find you?
So my profile name on TikTok is women_warriors.
Okay.
And my name's Christina from Woman Warriors. I put TikTok. I put a whole series, a 20-part series on TikTok about narcissism from the beginning to the end, on what it is, how to heal, and what to do afterwards. I talk about children. I talk about the projection that they do. I talk about going to court against a narcissist and how to better prepare for it, because they will charm everyone in that courtroom, right?
Yes.
And if you just scream out narcissist, narcissist, no one's going to believe you. So how do you actually do that, especially if you're fighting for the custody of your children to save them, like I had to, right? So Women Warriors on TikTok. I'm branching out a little bit more to Instagram. I do have an Instagram, which is also Women Warriors.
Okay.
I'm mostly focused on TikTok for now, but
you have a website also, correct?
I do have a website. You can see the link on my TikTok page. There's a link there that you can press. I have a website, but more specifically as well, there is a link on there that you can talk to me directly. I am doing one-on-one coaching sessions. I'm also doing workshops with many other people at the same time.
Awesome.
And so a lot of people want to talk to me one-on-one because they're at different stages in this cycle, and they need help sometimes, or just information. And I'm fully here and available to give that info to them and help them out.
Right. Awesome. So those who are audio listeners, her website is www.womenwarriorsnft.com.
That's right. And TikTok is the place to go. That's where all my links are, including my website as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You've been a great guest. Yes. Thank you so much. We'll take a short break and we'll be back in a moment.
Thank you.
Life can be overwhelming sometimes. We think we are a burden to others. We think that it's better to hide it and suppress our hurt, but it's not. As Cave Coral Therapists, we will provide you with quality, confidential counseling services in a relaxing and peaceful environment. Talk to a professional today. Book an appointment on www.cavecoraltherapist.com or call 239-565-6921.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy Show, where intimacy is good. Yes. I mean, that was such a powerful topic that I'm so glad we talked about.
It is. It absolutely is. And I heard some therapists talk about this, way back a couple months ago, maybe a year or two ago. And the one thing they mentioned that it's, a narcissist has a host of characteristics. And just for people who are listening, they may say, oh my gosh, I do that. I'm a narcissist. Is to understand that it's more than one of those characteristics usually. And to make sure that you do seek a licensed professional before you start self-diagnosing what's going on. Because, a only child may grow up and just be selfish. That doesn't mean that they're a narcissist. So understand that. Just want to make sure that we put that message out. Don't self-diagnose. It does take more than one of those characteristics for that diagnosis to even come about. But if you feel like you're in that situation, absolutely seek help. I love that we talked about that today.
Right, definitely. And even just to go more onto that in the sense of if you're maybe they're not a narcissist, but they're an abusive person. If you're being abused in a relationship, there's every city, every area mostly has an abuse shelter or a hotline to call for help. There's a lot of different places, or you can contact us and I can help you out. Yes. But the thing is that no relationship should make you feel where you self-doubt yourself, where you feel bad about yourself. Yes. And puts you down. That's not a healthy relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Great
healthy
show.
relationships make you grow.
Yes. Yes, they do.
So what's coming up next?
All right. Speaking of great shows, on March the 2nd, myself and Dr. April will be talking about March Madness. We're going to talk about 5 types of intimacy. On March the 16th, we have losing to winning relationship strategies. And then on March the 23rd, we're going to talk about everything is perfect except one thing.
Okay.
And you have to tune in to find out what that is.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. So this has been the Bringing Intimacy Back show. If you've liked us, please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and definitely check out Christina. Check out her website, The Woman Warrior, and also on TikTok to hear more about all the information she provides on relationship. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bringing Intimacy Back, where intimacy is real. You can also find us at bringingintimacyback.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Dr. April Brown's 7-book series, Improving Intimacy, is now on Amazon. We'll see you next Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe.